A very warm welcome to all of you on Fusion Fiction. This is your host, Madhulika Ra Chauhan, and you are listening to the maiden episode of Season 2. In today's episode, we delve into a story that straddles two worlds: the world of power and spectacle, and the world of survival and quiet resistance. In a world where oppression, privilege, and survival instinct intersect, we explore the delicate balance between power and vulnerability. Stay with us as we bring you a story of complexity, contradiction, and perhaps the most profound question of all: what does freedom truly mean? Today's story is Neon Lights. Kim Jong-un assembles new pleasure squad of young women. April 2nd, 2015. Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, has reportedly ordered the recruitment of a pleasure squad of young women, a family tradition from the days of North Korea's founding ruler Kim Il-sung. The women are supposed to entertain the dictator of one of the most repressive and secretive nations on earth, according to the Telegraph newspaper. I read the news aloud to Rubina. The news carried a photograph of a beaming North Korean leader clad in his signature black uniform, surrounded by a bevy of beauties, wearing a black dress and wrapped with a bright pink bow around their slender waists. To an untrained eye, it looked like a happy family picture. Only it wasn't. "What an ass!" I muttered, following and folding the newspaper and placing it next to the legs of the plastic chair as the image of Kim, surrounded by his pleasure squad, lingered in my mind. Rubina licked her fingers, savoring the kidney bean curry and rice. She scraped the plate clean with her forefinger, her faded blouse training at the seams. A silver amulet hung from her neck, swaying as she ate on her bed. She heaved a sigh as she got up from the bed with the plate. "It is excellent." "What? The Rajma? What else? Did you even listen to the news I read to you, Rubina?" I was a little angry. My time was going to be up and she was not bothered to listen. "I listened, Madam Ji, I did. Your Kim." Her voice slow and smooth, her mouth curling into a sly smile. "Not my Kim, North Korea's," I corrected, rolling my eye. "He's a good man," she continued, washing her curry-stained hands in a small basin in the room. Her nails, bitten bare, made the front of her fingers appear swollen. The garish red paint had chipped off at several places. "Good man?" I questioned, irritation creeping into my voice. "So what do you make of this?" I asked, trying to gauge her reaction. Rubina paused, wiping the last of the curry stains from her fingers before answering. "It is simple, Madam Ji. This man has hired women to keep him happy," she said casually, as if discussing something she had heard 100 times before. Her casual dismissal unsettled me. "Asked his government," I added, the necessary detail she had failed to mention. "So what's wrong with that? He's a busy man, he's a leader, who else will he ask?" she replied as a matter of fact. "Time is going to be up!" A loud, gravelly voice from outside the room reminded me of the time I had with me to be with Rubina. "My next hour is off. She can stay," replied Rubina quickly. "Who will play? Your father?" "I will," she replied promptly, keeping her hand on my shoulder, gesturing me to keep sitting. "He has so many women. Even if he has one for each day, night, one woman's chance would only come once a month," she calculated mentally. "Imagine the rest. Those women would have just one chance a month while the others waited, not to mention the food, the clothes, and the lodgings. Her eyes sparkled as she imagined further. I looked at her, trying to understand her argument. This was the 4th year of my visit. In the quest of establishing myself, trying to break the glass ceiling through my serious, hard-hitting story. It was the well-established progression one had to take to evolve and break the mold. Escaping the mundane, patchy, everyday candy floss reporting to the war stories, drug trafficking. One would then be eligible for some prestigious award and would be the elite club of reporting. Mine was Rubina, a byline which caught the world by storm. In the 4 years of knowing Rubina, I would discuss her take on news stories. Her view had always been unique. Oblique, one could say. I liked her obliqueness. Each time I arrived, I covered my face with my dupatta, not out of fear, but to shield myself from the overwhelming stench of stale liquor and decay. Afterward, I would spend hours scrubbing away the remnants of the place. Perhaps it was easier for me to commiserate with Rubina once I sat on my writing chair, shuffling through the right words that would fit in, despite knowing that no matter what I chose and what I wrote, Rubina would never fit in. Each visit brought me closer to understanding the stories I was meant to tell. The first time I showed her own story to Rubina, printed in a prestigious magazine, she was so excited. She kept running her fingers on the glossy pages and making an outline on her own silhouette, visible against the bar windows. It meant the world to her to see her picture in a magazine showcasing a world she knew little of. The piece had been framed and duly hung on the wall. Now, with its sepia remains, it hung at the exact same spot on the chipped teal blue wall. Rubina looked the same, except for the deepening crow lines around her eyes. The nightlife and its druggery had finally found a hold, deepening its talons into her soft flesh. But her eyes sparkled the same way when she spoke to me, her Madam G, an epithet otherwise reserved for the owner. "Are they looking for women all over the world?" she asked suddenly. "No, only North Korea, I suppose. Even though this seems like an official recruitment, they wouldn't look outside the country, I guess." She nodded understandably. "North Korea?" she asked, reminiscing a little. "How far is it?" "It's far, I guess. Should be 12-hour flight from New Delhi, but there are no direct flights. It's a closed nation. They don't allow people to go out and come in." "It must be interesting to visit there," she offered excitedly. "Would you go if you got a chance?" "I guess it's a chance no one would want to miss, given the unique nature of the nation. To witness it firsthand would definitely be a new experience, and I or no one would want to miss that." I mulled over the answer I had given. It was true. There was intrigue and mystique surrounding the elusive nation, and no matter what view I held from the outside world, seeing and experiencing it firsthand would be a treasured experience. I turned to Rubina to ask the same question. "If you got a chance, would you go?" The effect was electrifying. She jumped to the idea, only her reason was different. "If I get to be a part of the squad, I will never be hungry and I will never have to hide my money and think of wearing the same clothes." I looked at her face as she spoke, realizing that freedom meant different things to different people. In that moment, Rubina's dreams and struggles reflected the broader realities I could not perhaps see or wish to experience. I glanced at my watch. It was time for me to go. I placed the goodies on the bed beside her, a small offering. "Tell me, what do you want next time?" "Biryani," Pat came her reply. "And your news?" she smiled understandably, looking straight into my eyes filled with a strange contentment despite what they had been through. a sparkle which had survived all the years of hardened life. They were both fierce and fragile, belonging to a woman caught between dreams and harsh truths. I got up and carried my empty bag on my shoulder. I passed the narrow balcony to leave Rubina's room, moving the thin, threadbare curtain jaded over time. A girl stood combing her hair in the balcony, striking a pose to grab lucrative attention. Business hours usually started from 5 p.m., nearing sundown. Pursing her thin lips together after applying another coat of the bright cherry red lipstick, she hailed Rubina as I descended the narrow flight downstairs, her calloused feet dry and parched like her acerbic tongue. I walked through the colonial quarters of Hyderabad, where the patina of black moss ran through the stone filigreed colonial structure, as it jostled with the modern day eyesores, a shadow of its former glory, struggling to exist. I was no stranger to Banno's acrimonious look or her acerbic tongue. She gave me a piece of it as I came each month to meet Rubina. The narrow lanes of Hyderabad Road, where the Kotewalis did their honest business through the folds of the night, hiding society's sin in the blanket of stars, is where I met Rubina, the wild flower, who was sending off her overstaying night guest with the choicest abuses. Haramkhor! Nickel! Don't come back if you don't have money. Her voice crisp and hoarse, unlike the labored smoothness of the tutored and self-conscious. Her coal-stained eyes bright and livid. Her long tresses flying wildly. It had taken me only a few seconds to realize it was she whom I wanted to cover as my subject. Since then, I became her Madam G. Don't come to corrupt our girls and sell them big city dreams. This is where they belong. Array, I'm not going anywhere, Appa. Don't trouble her. Rubina would reassure Banno, planting a kiss on the brothel maiden's fat, rancid cheek. Beetle spit leaking through the corners of her fat lips, like ugly fetid water running through the latrines, cutting through the bricks, making them slimy with moss and germs. Rubina was my ticket to the world which did not belong to me. The incessant cajoling of the lean hawkers, weary of the feminists which came calling to ruin their business. I knew by the looks that I was never welcome. But it was at Rubina's insistence I came once a month carrying a bag of goodies in exchange of priceless view she had for the world from the barred window and a paint-chipped room. She was one of the lucky few who had a room to call her own, while others waited with their tokens for their turn to use a room during work time and spend the rest of the day in dingy dark. Rubina was her mistress's favorite, the star of number 64, who commanded a prize yet envied by the rest. As I stepped out of the kotha, the laughter and music blend into a haunting melody, echoing in my mind. I paused, taking one last look back at the vibrant chaos within, the laughter of women, the flicker of candlelight, the fleeting moments of joy that seemed to fight against the shadow of their reality. Each burst of laughter, a fleeting echo of resilience, a momentary defiance against the harsh realities that bound these women to their fate. What does freedom truly mean for someone like Rubina, who has known both the chains of her past and the fleeting joy of her present? Could the world outside ever understand the complexities of her life? Or will it continue to view her only through the lens of stereotypes and stigma? And I reached the end of the narrow lane. The street lights cast long shadows behind me. I thought that in the pursuit of truth and storytelling, how much responsibility did I hold for the lives I had chronicled? Would my words bring change, or will they simply echo in the void, much like the laughter fading behind the kotha walls? The duality of beauty and despair was not just Rubina's story. but a universal truth that resonated beyond the walls. I stepped into the night, the vibrant cacophony of sounds of Hirabad still echoing in my ears. A reminder that the stories of women like Rubina were far from over, and perhaps neither was my own journey of understanding. Thank you for joining us tonight on Fusion Fiction. Rubina's story serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of freedom is not always about grand gestures, but often about finding moments of resilience within systems that seek to oppress. As we walk through these tales, whether they bring us closer or farther from understanding, we are reminded that stories like Rubina's are not just hers alone. They echo in the lives of countless others, each struggling with their own version of survival. What's the price of freedom? Is it worth it to some to live a life of relative comfort in exchange for giving up right most of us take for granted? If this story has made you think, share your thoughts with me. Reach out to me on social media or write to me at madhulikarachauhan@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Fusion Fiction to hear more stories that make us question the world around us. Have fun until we meet again. This is Madhulika Ra Chauhan, and you are listening to Fusion Fiction.